Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, and we are getting ready to start typography week 3, day 3. So glad you guys are here joining us. This is going to be a fun day. We're going to actually talk about a lot of the definitions and terms that go along with typography. I'm going to try to make this short and just give you guys just the meat right out of the chute. So here we go. The very first thing we need to know is that, remember that there is a thing called typeface, there's a thing called fonts. Typeface is a description of the family. Fonts is when you apply style. That's a review that you need to remember. Then there's serif and sans serif. So serifs have the little feet things, and sans serif are just blocky. Make sure you've got that down. And now let's get into what we're going to talk about today. Very first thing is baseline. So as simply as I can say it, the baseline is the line that all the letters rest on. It's not marked, it's invisible, but if we come over here and we look at this example, every one of these letters is on a line. And it's an imaginary line, but we call it the baseline. So that's where we need to start. The baseline, one more time, baseline, get that down. Baseline is the line that all letters begin or rest. So make sure you have that definition down. It is the baseline that all the letters rest on. From here, when you're talking about fonts, the next thing you want to talk about is the cap height. Cap height. So the cap height is the height of the capital letters from the baseline. So if we come back over here and look at our example, you can see that all of the capital letters, which we don't have very many here, are the same height. So you kind of develop when you're developing a font, you develop a height that goes along with it, and this is called the cap height. The second thing besides cap height is your X height. And X height is the measurement of the lowercase letters. So capital letters is, it's just kind of a given. They're going to be a certain height. But when it comes to lowercase letters, that's kind of important, because if we look back at this text, we see that our X height is not only the height of, just these lowercase standalone letters, but also like on our H, the hump on the H is the same height across. So if we were to draw a line, you could see that this is a line and this is a line. So we have, technically we would have 3 lines here, one underneath for the baseline, one in the middle for the X height, and one on top for the cap height. And so those are the 3 guides that help us in being able to create text or font. Now, when you are just typing, this is something you don't really need to use, but when we get to the stage that you may be creating your own kind of lettering, hand-drawn or however you want to do it, you need to keep in mind the baseline, the cap height, and the X height. All right, let's get into some other interesting things. So back here looking at our text again, there are spaces that go along with this. So we've got our baseline, our X height, our cap height, and now we have spaces in between letters and spaces in between lines. So let's talk about first the spacing in between lines, because that's probably the easiest one. The other one, there's a couple of different things. So the spacing in between lines is called the leading. And it's called leading because they used to use pieces of lead to separate the blocks of print when they were doing a printing press like a long time ago. So they would use pieces of lead, and so this is called the leading. And we can adjust our leading. We're using Photoshop today, but you guys are gonna be using this pretty soon. So I'm just gonna select all of my text. And there is a leading adjustment, and it is right here. Right here is our leading adjustment, and I can change the leading to whatever I would like, and it scrunches the letters up. We can even adjust it a little bit at a time, and it kind of spreads the letters out. If you have a little bit of space, or maybe you just don't like the look of a lot of space, we can scrunch it together and kind of make it a little bit more compact. So adjusting the space between the lines is called leading. So that is the leading, that's the leading adjustment. On a word processor like Google Docs, Microsoft Word, a lot of these different things, you don't actually have many options when it comes to adjusting the leading. You get single space or double space. And that has to do with the fact that word processing actually started on a typewriter, and it was a very mechanical thing. You like clicked this large roller and moved it backwards, and that was a single space, and then you rolled it again and that was a double space. So it's very mechanical and measured out. But when it comes to graphic design, it's fluid, it's adjustable. You can adjust the leading. So that's the next thing you need to know. After leading, we need to talk about kerning. Kerning. These are really strange words. So we're going to talk about kerning. Kerning is the space between the individual letters. And this is important. It is between the individual letters, not every letter. So kerning is what you adjust when you're adjusting just two letters, just two. So here we go. Like if I really want this I and this H to be closer together, I'm going to come up here to my kerning adjustment, and I'm going to adjust the kerning, which is right here, and I'm going to adjust it for however much I want it to be adjusted. And it makes it a little bit closer together, except it's kind of not working. There it goes. Oops, I did it way too much. So it's adjusting and it pushed it way back. So you can adjust how much space is between each letter. So I'm shrinking, I actually shrunk the I and the S, but that's okay. So that is the adjustment of kerning. So it's individual letters. And you might think, why would I want to adjust individual letters? Well, when you're doing a graphic design and you have one word and it's really big, sometimes the automatic spacing pushes them really far apart. And you may want to adjust the kerning and pull that letter a little bit closer in so that it looks a little bit nicer together. Now, if you want to adjust the spacing on every letter, that is called tracking. So tracking is when you adjust every letter. So if we come back over here to our example, and we're just going to select everything, and now we're going to adjust we're going to adjust it right here, and we're going to change it to, I don't know, -5. It's going to scrunch everything a little closer together. And we can even go down further, -25, and you can see that the letters are getting closer and closer. It actually makes it look like the font is shrinking, but it's actually not. The letters and the spacing are just getting closer and closer together. So you have these different options as far as arranging your letters, and this is why typography and paying close attention makes a big, big, big deal, because it can affect the overall look of how things appear. So far, what you've been doing in your life is just using what is the default. And what I'm asking you to do now is go beyond the default and explore what spacing can make a difference of within text. So that being said, your assignment today is going to be focusing on adjusting and creating some different sizes and spacing between fonts to see what it looks like. Today we're just going to experiment. I just want you to have some fun. For those of you who are online, you'll have a slightly different assignment than the ones who are in class, but we're going to have a little bit of fun today and play around with spacing, kerning, leading, tracking, and it's just going to be a good day. So hope you guys have fun. Thanks for paying attention. We'll see y'all next time.